Rachel Bennett stood at the entrance of Hangar Bay 7, her boots echoing against the metal floor. The sound felt wrong somehow. Too loud. Too empty. 10 years. It had been 10 whole years since she'd last walked through these doors. Back then she'd been 18 and angry at the world. Now she was 28 and just tired. The motion sensors kicked in, and the overhead lights flickered on one by one, marching down the length of the massive hangar. Long shadows stretched across rows of decommissioned ships, all covered in thick layers of dust and forgotten dreams. Some of these vessels had probably been sitting here since before she was born. Dead metal waiting for someone who would never come back. Rachel pulled her jacket tighter. The hangar was cold. It always had been. Her father used to joke that they kept it cold to preserve the ships, but really it was just bad heating. She could see her breath in the air as she walked deeper inside. She was a decorated cargo hauler now, captain of her own small freighter. She had a reputation across 3 sectors for flying routes that made other pilots go pale just hearing about them. The Navarro Gauntlet. The Shattered Belt during solar storms. Places where one wrong move meant death, and insurance companies refused to cover anyone crazy enough to try. But Rachel always made it through. She had a gift, people said. Or a death wish. She was never quite sure which one they meant. But today she wasn't here for work. Today was personal. Her father had died 3 weeks ago. Heart failure, the doctor said. Quick and painless. One moment he was tinkering with an engine, the next moment he was gone. Just like that. No warning. No goodbye. His lawyer had sent her a single message yesterday. Short and strange. Go to the hangar. Bay 7. Everything you need is there. That was it. No explanation. No details. Just those 2 sentences that brought her back to a place she'd sworn she'd never visit again. Rachel moved through the familiar space, and with each step, memories came flooding back. Good ones and bad ones all mixed together. Her father had been an engineer here, one of the absolute best. People came from all over just to have him look at their ships. He could diagnose a problem by sound alone, just by listening to an engine run for 30 seconds. He'd taught her everything about ships. How to coax life from dying engines when all hope seemed lost. How to feel a vessel's heartbeat through the controls, sensing problems before instruments could detect them. How to trust her instincts when computers said one thing but her gut said another. Those lessons had saved her life more times than she could count. She found it in the back corner, right where it had always been. The Wanderer's Hope. The name was painted in faded letters along the side. She'd picked that name herself when she was 12 years old, thinking it sounded adventurous and free. Now it just sounded naive. This was the small courier ship where she'd learned to fly. She could still remember sitting on her father's lap, barely able to see over the control panel, her small hands gripping the flight stick while his larger hands hovered nearby, ready to catch any mistakes. He'd been patient with her. So patient. Never yelling when she messed up, just gently correcting her and making her try again. But something was wrong. Very wrong. The ship was pristine. Not a single speck of dust on it. The hull gleamed under the hangar lights like someone had polished it yesterday. Every other ship in this place looked abandoned and forgotten, but not this one. This one looked ready to fly. The maintenance panels on the side were all lit up green, showing active power readings. That shouldn't be possible. This ship should have been dead for a decade. Rachel's hand went to the weapon on her hip. Old habits. When something didn't make sense, you stayed alert. She approached slowly, eyes scanning for any sign of danger. "Hello, Rachel," a warm, familiar voice said from nowhere and everywhere at once. Rachel jumped back, her weapon halfway out of its holster before her brain caught up with her ears. She knew that voice. She'd heard it 1,000 times as a kid. "Hope," she whispered into the empty air. The ship's interior lights glowed softly, a gentle blue that she remembered from childhood. A holographic interface materialized near the boarding ramp, shimmering into existence like a ghost becoming solid. "Welcome home," the ship's artificial intelligence said. The voice carried warmth and something that almost sounded like emotion, even though Rachel knew it was just programming. Good programming but still just code. "Your father has been waiting for you. Or rather, he knew you'd come eventually." Rachel's throat tightened. Her hand dropped away from her weapon. "He's gone, Hope. Dad's dead." "I know," the AI responded quietly. "I'm very sorry, Rachel. He was a good man. The best I've known." The hologram shifted and changed. A new image appeared, projected in the air between Rachel and the ship. Her father's face, older than she remembered, more tired, but still wearing that slight smile he always had when he was working on something he loved. "Rachel, sweetheart, The recording began and Rachel felt her eyes start to burn with tears she'd been holding back for 3 weeks. If you're seeing this, then I'm gone and it's time. Time for you to understand what we've been building. This ship isn't what it used to be. She's special now. And so are you. Hope will explain everything, but I need you to trust me one last time. Humanity needs what we've built together. The galaxy needs it. And you're the only one who can fly her now. The message flickered and ended. Rachel stood there in the cold hangar, staring at empty space where her father's face had been just moments before, and wondered what the hell he'd gotten her into this time. Rachel sat in the pilot's chair, her hands gripping the armrests so tight her knuckles had gone white. The neural interface tingled at the base of her skull, a weird buzzing sensation that made her teeth ache. Hope had guided her through the connection process step by step, but nothing could have prepared her for what it actually felt like. It was like suddenly having 1,000 new senses all at once. Through the ship's sensors, she could feel the hangar around her like an extension of her own body. The cold metal walls. The recycled air moving through ventilation ducts. The electromagnetic hum of power conduits running beneath the floor. It was overwhelming and amazing at the same time. "This is insane," Rachel muttered, flexing her fingers. When she did, she swore she could feel the ship's landing gear flex in response. "How long does it take to get used to this?" "Your father adapted within hours," Hope said. "But he designed the interface specifically for human neural patterns. For you, specifically, based on medical scans from your childhood. It should feel natural soon." Natural. Right. Nothing about this felt natural. But Rachel had flown through worse. She took a deep breath and tried to relax into the sensation. "Okay," she said. "You mentioned something about colonies going silent. Start from the beginning. What's going on out there?" A star map materialized in the air in front of her, three-dimensional and rotating slowly. 3 planets glowed red against the darkness of space. 3 colony worlds have gone silent, Hope explained. Red circles pulsed around each one. Kepler's Hope, New Terran, and Frontier's Edge. All of them are in the contested zone. We're talking about over 40,000 colonists total. Men, women, children. Families who went out there looking for a better life. Rachel leaned forward, studying the map. She'd heard of these colonies. Frontier settlements on the edge of civilized space. Tough people willing to risk everything for independence and opportunity. When did they go dark? 2 weeks ago. All 3 within 48 hours of each other. That made Rachel's stomach twist. One colony having problems, maybe that was bad luck. But 3 at once? That was planned. That was an attack. "The Galactic Council," she started to say. "Won't act," Hope interrupted, and there was something almost like frustration in the AI's voice. "The Prime Non-Interference Directive prohibits military action without proof of hostile intent. The Council claims they need concrete evidence before they can send help. Right now they're officially calling it equipment failure. Mass technical malfunction. They're suggesting it might be natural disasters or solar activity." "That's garbage," Rachel said flatly. 3 colonies don't just stop transmitting at the same time because of bad weather. "I agree. But intercepted signals suggest something very different is happening. Something the Council either doesn't understand or doesn't want to understand." Rachel zoomed in on the map, examining the contested zone more carefully. It sat at the edge of known space, where territorial claims from 6 different species overlapped and nobody could agree on who owned what. It was a political nightmare. Tensions ran high out there. Ships disappeared sometimes. Pirates, rebels, or just bad luck. "What kind of signals did you intercept?" "Encrypted communications using protocols that aren't in any database. Energy signatures that don't match any known technology, not human, not Centauri, not anything registered with the Council. Your father spent months analyzing the data. He believed someone found something out there. Something old. Something powerful. And whoever found it is willing to kill to keep it secret." A chill ran down Rachel's spine. She'd heard stories. Every pilot had. Ancient ruins scattered across the galaxy. Technology from civilizations that died out millions of years ago. Most of it was junk. Broken and useless. But sometimes, very rarely, someone found something that still worked. And when they did, people got greedy. People got violent. Traditional ships can't get there in time, can they? Rachel already knew the answer, but she needed to hear it said out loud. 6 months, Hope confirmed. At standard drive speeds, it would take 6 months to reach even the closest colony. By then, whatever's happening will be long over. Everyone there will be dead or gone. Rachel closed her eyes. 6 months. 40,000 people. She did the math in her head and hated the answer. But we're not using a traditional drive, Hope continued. The quantum drive your father installed can make the trip in 3 weeks. 21 days instead of 180. How? Rachel had heard whispers about quantum drives. Experimental technology that most species couldn't use effectively. What makes this different? The drive uses human neural patterns. It requires constant mental engagement. You have to stay connected to the ship, stay focused, guided through folded space using intuition as much as calculation. Other species find it exhausting. Their minds can't handle the sustained concentration. Most can only manage 15 or 20 minutes before they have to disconnect. Humans are different. Humans can endure it for hours. Rachel opened her eyes and looked at her hands. They were steady now. The tingling at the base of her skull had faded to a dull background hum. Because we're stubborn. Because you're resilient, Hope corrected gently. Because humans have something other species don't. You call it grit. Determination. The ability to push through pain and exhaustion when it matters. Your father believed that's what makes humans special. Not your technology or your weapons. Your refusal to quit. Rachel stood up, pacing the small bridge. Her mind was racing. 40,000 people. 3 weeks. A ship she barely understood equipped with technology that shouldn't exist. This is crazy. I'm a cargo hauler, Hope. I fly freight from point A to point B. I'm not a hero. Your father thought otherwise. He spent 10 years building this ship for you. Not for some military hero. Not for some council diplomat. For you. His daughter. The pilot who flies routes that terrify everyone else. The woman who refuses to accept that something can't be done. Rachel stopped pacing. She stared at the star map, at those 3 red dots pulsing in the darkness. 40,000 people who had no idea help might be coming. Who probably thought they'd been abandoned. Forgotten. She thought about her father's last message. About trust. About humanity needing what they'd built together. There's something else, Hope said quietly. Something you should see before you decide. A personnel file appeared on the display. Colonial Defense Records. Rachel's heart stopped when she saw the name at the top. Dylan Bennett. Her little brother. Assigned to Frontier's Edge. Communications Specialist. 24 years old. 3 years since she'd last seen him. 3 years since their fight about him following in their father's footsteps. Going off to some frontier colony instead of staying safe. And now he was out there. Silent. Maybe alive. Maybe not. Rachel's hands clenched into fists. When do we leave? The quantum drive felt like flying through lightning while solving impossible equations in her head, all while someone was slowly peeling her skull open with a hot knife. Rachel's consciousness had merged completely with the Wanderer's hope. Her thoughts guided the ship through folded space, navigating by instinct and math that her brain somehow understood without really understanding it at all. Every other species that tried this drive reported the same problems. Disorientation within minutes. Nausea so bad they couldn't function. Mental exhaustion that left them useless for days afterward. The longest recorded session by a non-human pilot was 18 minutes before they had to disconnect or risk permanent brain damage. Rachel had been at it for 6 hours straight. Her body sat strapped in the pilot's chair, but her mind was everywhere else. She could feel the quantum foam brushing against the hull like silk made of electricity. She could sense the ripples in space-time, the way reality bent and folded around them as they punched through dimensions that didn't have proper names. It was intoxicating and terrifying and beautiful all at once. You're exceeding recommended neural load, Hope warned. The AI's voice sounded distant, like someone calling to her from the bottom of a well. Your brain activity is spiking into dangerous levels. You need to disconnect and rest. I'm fine, Rachel said through gritted teeth, though she wasn't entirely sure that was true. Her hands were shaking. Her vision kept blurring at the edges. But they were making incredible time and every minute counted. Through the ship's sensors she could taste the quantum foam. Actually taste it like copper and starlight mixed together. She could feel every ripple they created in space-time, every tiny adjustment the drive made. How much longer to Kepler's hope? 4 days at this speed. 4 days. Rachel's exhausted brain struggled with the math for a moment before it clicked. 4 days instead of 6 weeks. Her father had built something incredible. Something that broke every rule about what was supposed to be possible. She pushed harder, urging the ship faster through the folded dimensions. Her nose started bleeding, but she ignored it. Dylan was out there. 40,000 people were out there. 4 days. She could last 4 days. On the 3rd day everything changed. Rachel's instincts screamed at her before any alarm went off. Something was wrong. Something big and metallic and dead was floating directly in their path through normal space. "Slow down," she commanded, her voice hoarse from hours of barely speaking. The ship dropped out of quantum drive, and the sudden disconnection hit Rachel like a physical blow. Her consciousness snapped back into her body all at once. She gasped, clutching the armrests, her whole body shaking. Sweat had soaked completely through her flight suit. Her head pounded like someone was hammering nails into her temples. "Water," she croaked. A panel slid open and a bottle appeared. Rachel grabbed it with trembling hands and drank half of it in 3 desperate gulps. The cold water helped clear her head a little. She wiped blood from her nose with her sleeve and forced herself to focus on the sensors. Wreckage floated in the void ahead of them. Lots of it. Big pieces of torn metal tumbling slowly through space, reflecting starlight like broken mirrors. Rachel enhanced the sensors, zooming in on the debris. Her stomach dropped when she recognized the hull plating patterns. "Those are Galactic patrol vessels." "Confirmed," Hope said, and there was something grim in the AI's voice. "Destroyer class. 3 of them. Military-grade warships. Destroyed within the last 2 weeks based on metal degradation and radiation signatures." Rachel stared at the wreckage in disbelief. Galactic patrol destroyers were serious business. Heavy armor. Energy shields that could withstand direct hits from missiles. Weapon systems that could crack a small moon if they needed to. And someone or something had torn through 3 of them like they were made of paper. What could do that? She maneuvered the Wanderer's Hope closer, her hands steady again now that the adrenaline was kicking in. The destroyed ships weren't just damaged. They'd been carved apart. Clean cuts through hull plating that should have been impossible to cut. Entire sections just missing like something had erased them from existence. "I'm detecting residual energy signatures," Hope reported. "Similar to what we picked up from the colony transmissions but much more concentrated." "Rachel, these ships weren't destroyed by conventional weapons. No blast patterns. No projectile impacts. No burn marks from energy weapons. Something just removed parts of them." Rachel felt ice forming in her stomach. She guided the ship through the debris field slowly, scanning everything. Bodies floated among the wreckage. Patrol officers in their uniforms, frozen in the vacuum, their faces locked in expressions of surprise and terror. Whatever hit them had hit fast. They hadn't even had time to reach the escape pods. "How many survivors?" Rachel asked, though she already knew the answer. "None detected. All 3 ships lost with full crews. Approximately 800 personnel total. 800 trained soldiers. 3 state-of-the-art warships. All destroyed in the middle of nowhere, and nobody had even known about it until now." Rachel's hands clenched on the controls. "The Council needs to see this," she said. "Hope, record everything. Every scan, every image. This is proof that something hostile is operating in this sector." "Already recording." "But Rachel, if whatever did this is still in the area, then we need to move fast." Rachel brought up the navigation charts. They were still 2 days from Kepler's Hope at quantum speeds. 2 days from her brother. 2 days from answers. "Can you detect any active threats nearby?" "Negative. Whatever was here is long gone. But the energy signatures form a trail. They're heading in the same direction we are." Of course they were. Rachel took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. The fear was still there, cold and heavy in her chest, but it was manageable now. She'd flown through worse. She'd survived worse. "Then we follow it," she said, wiping more blood from her nose. "But we go in smart. No more 6-hour quantum jumps. We'll do shorter bursts and scan between jumps. Whatever destroyed those ships, I want to see it coming before it sees us." "Agreed." "Rachel, are you sure about this?" "We could turn back. Report what we found. Let the Council send a proper military response." Rachel looked at the floating bodies one more time. 800 people who'd trusted the Council to protect them. Who'd followed orders and flown into danger because that was their job. "The Council had 2 weeks to figure this out," she said quietly. "They didn't. We're not turning back. My brother's out there. And I'm going to find out what happened to him, even if I have to fly through hell to do it." She pushed the quantum drive back online, feeling it connect to her mind again. The pain was immediate and sharp, but she gritted her teeth and pushed through it. 4 days had become 2. And Rachel Bennett didn't plan on wasting a single minute. New Terran was different from what Rachel had expected. Very different. As the Wanderer's Hope approached from the outer system, keeping far enough away to avoid detection, Rachel detected active power signatures everywhere. Ship traffic moving in organized patterns. Communications chatter on multiple frequencies. Organized operations running like clockwork. This wasn't an abandoned colony with everyone mysteriously vanished. This was an excavation site. A big one. And somebody was working it hard. Those are Centauri Consortium vessels, Hope identified, highlighting 6 large ships in orbit around the planet. Scientific research ships according to their identification codes. But Rachel, look at those sensor readings. They're equipped with military-grade shields. Weapon systems too. Those aren't normal research vessels. Rachel felt her jaw tighten as she studied the displays. The Centauri were one of the Galactic Council's founding species. They'd been exploring space when humans were still figuring out fire. Wealthy beyond measure. Ancient beyond comprehension. They were obsessed with archaeology and lost civilizations, spending fortunes digging up ruins across the galaxy. But they were supposed to be peaceful. Scholars and scientists, not soldiers. So why did their research ships have enough firepower to level a city? This doesn't feel right, Rachel muttered, zooming in on the orbital patterns. The Centauri ships were positioned defensively, like they were protecting something. Or keeping people away from something. Can we slip past them without being detected? The adaptive hull your father installed can mimic asteroid composition, Hope explained. If we power down non-essential systems and drift in slowly, their sensors will read us as space debris. Just another rock in the planetary ring system. Rachel looked at the planet's rings. Billions of chunks of ice and stone, ranging from pebbles to mountains, all orbiting in a glittering band. Perfect cover if you knew how to use it. And Rachel had hidden in asteroid fields before, though usually she was running from pirates, not sneaking past research vessels. Do it, she ordered. Kill everything except life support and maneuvering thrusters. Make us look dead. The ship's systems powered down one by one. The lights dimmed to almost nothing. The comfortable hum of the engines faded to silence. Even the artificial gravity reduced to barely noticeable. Rachel felt herself getting lighter in her seat. She guided the Wanderer's Hope into the planet's ring system with tiny bursts from the thrusters, moving slowly and carefully. They blended in with the rocks and ice, just another piece of cosmic junk tumbling through space. Her hands were steady on the controls, but her heart was hammering. If the Centauri detected them now, there was nowhere to run. They drifted for 3 hours, moving centimeter by centimeter toward the planet's surface. Rachel barely breathed the whole time. Through the viewports, she could see Centauri patrol craft passing nearby, close enough that she could make out details on their hulls. But none of them turned toward the Wanderer's Hope. None of them noticed one more rock among billions. When they finally cleared the orbital zone and entered the atmosphere, Rachel let out a breath she'd been holding for way too long. We're through. Taking us down. The planet's surface appeared through the clouds and Rachel's breath caught in her throat. The excavation site was massive. Easily 10 kilometers across. Energy barriers had been carved straight down into the planet's crust like someone had taken a giant knife and just scooped out a section of the world. And at the bottom, revealed after who knew how many millions of years of being buried, were structures. Structures that hurt to look at. Rachel squinted at the view screen, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The geometry was all wrong. Angles that shouldn't exist. Curves that bent in directions that made her eyes water. It was like looking at a building designed by someone who'd never heard of three-dimensional space and didn't care about the rules of physics. What am I looking at? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Ancient ruins, Hope replied. But not like any ruins in the galactic database. Rachel, those structures are older than the Centauri civilization. Older than any known spacefaring species. The energy readings coming from them are off the scale. They're not just ruins. They're active. They're powered. After millions of years, they're still working. Rachel guided the ship lower, staying close to the canyon walls where the excavation equipment cast long shadows. She could see Centauri workers everywhere, tiny figures moving around the ruins like ants. Heavy machinery cutting into ancient stone. Cables and power conduits running everywhere, all leading down into the depths of the excavation. And there, at the very bottom, something that made Rachel's blood run cold. Transparent chambers. Dozens of them. Hundreds maybe. And inside those chambers she could see people. Human people. Not moving. Just floating there in some kind of suspension. She enhanced the sensors, zooming in as much as she dared. Hope, she said slowly, her voice shaking with barely controlled rage. Are those stasis pods? Confirmed. Medical stasis pods. Human design. I'm detecting approximately 400 life signs. All human. All in deep suspension. The AI paused. Rachel, I'm also detecting your brother's identification chip. Dylan is down there. Rachel's hands clenched on the controls so hard she heard the metal creak. Her little brother was down there, frozen in a box, surrounded by aliens who'd brought enough weapons to start a war. She landed the Wanderer's Hope on a rocky outcropping about a kilometer from the main excavation site, tucking the ship behind a ridge where it wouldn't be visible from the dig. The moment the landing gear touched down, she was out of her seat, grabbing equipment. Environment suit, weapons, cutting tools, everything she might need. Hope, if I'm not back in 4 hours, you get out of here. You fly back to Council Space and you tell them everything. Understood. Rachel, this is dangerous. The Zentari have armed guards everywhere. If they catch you. They won't catch me, Rachel interrupted, sealing her helmet. I've snuck into worse places. Besides, I'm not leaving my brother in a box while aliens do whatever they're planning with those ruins. I'm going to get him out and I'm going to find out what the hell is going on down there. She opened the airlock and stepped out onto the alien world. The ruins loomed in the distance, their impossible geometry casting shadows that seemed to move when she wasn't looking directly at them. Somewhere down there, her brother waited, along with 400 other humans who had no idea what was happening to them. Rachel checked her weapon one more time and started walking. Whatever the Zentari had found in those ruins, whatever they were planning, she was about to ruin their day. Because nobody put humans in boxes. Not while Rachel Bennett was still breathing. They emerged from quantum space 3 light-years away from New Terran, and the quantum drive immediately started screaming like a dying animal. Metal shrieked. Warning alarms blared from every console. The drive was tearing itself apart, components failing one after another in a cascading breakdown that Rachel couldn't stop. Smoke filled the bridge, thick and acrid, making her eyes water. Rachel's hands flew across the controls, desperately trying to shut down the system before it exploded and took the whole ship with it. She killed the power to the failed drive just as the temperature gauges hit critical. The screaming stopped. The ship lurched as they dropped to conventional engines, and Rachel grabbed the armrest to keep from being thrown forward. Everyone okay? She called back toward the cargo hold, coughing through the smoke. The emergency ventilation kicked in, slowly clearing the air. Dylan appeared in the doorway, his face pale and covered in sweat, but his eyes were determined. Behind him, Rachel could see the other rescued colonists huddled together, scared but alive. We're alive, Dylan confirmed. A few people got thrown around when we dropped out of quantum, but nothing serious. Rachel, you need to see what I downloaded from the Zentari computers. These ruins, they're not just on the 3 colonies. They're everywhere. A network spanning hundreds of worlds across the entire galaxy. Rachel pulled up the data on her screens, her hands still shaking from the adrenaline. Ancient star maps appeared, glowing with hundreds of pinpoint locations. Each one marked a ruin site. Each one connected by lines of force or energy or something that the sensors couldn't quite identify. The network covered known space like a web, touching dozens of species territories including human space. And at the center of it all, one massive hub that pulsed brighter than all the others combined. That's Frontier's Edge, Rachel whispered, her blood running cold. The 3rd colony. They're activating the central network there. Dylan moved closer, pulling up more files from the data he'd stolen. His fingers were trembling as he worked. According to this, once the central hub is fully active, every Zentari in the galaxy can upload their consciousness to the system. They'll be able to transfer into any compatible host anywhere in the network. They'll be effectively immortal and everywhere at once. They'll be able to jump from body to body across hundreds of worlds instantly. Rachel's hands clenched on the controls hard enough to make her knuckles crack. The full horror of what the Zentari were planning hit her like a physical blow. 40,000 human colonists weren't just test subjects. They were going to be storage. Living bodies for ancient consciousness to inhabit whenever they wanted. Humans reduced to nothing more than spare parts for immortal aliens who thought they deserved to live forever. How long? Rachel's voice came out flat and hard. How long before the network activates? Dylan checked the data again, his face getting even paler. We have maybe 6 hours before full activation. After that, it'll be too late. The system will be permanent. 6 hours. Rachel looked at the navigation display. And we're 3 days from Frontier's Edge on conventional engines. She turned to the ship's AI. Hope, can we repair the quantum drive? Get it working for one more jump? Not in time, Hope said, and Rachel could hear actual sadness in the artificial voice. The neural interface burned out. The quantum coils are fused. Even if I had the parts, it would take weeks to repair. Rachel, I'm sorry. We tried our best. Rachel stared at the star map, at that pulsing hub on Frontier's Edge. 40,000 people. her brother standing right behind her. The future of human independence in the galaxy hanging by a thread. And Dylan's stolen data showing proof of a conspiracy that reached to the highest levels of the Galactic Council. Proof that could change everything if anyone saw it. If anyone saw it. An idea hit Rachel like lightning. Crazy. Desperate. Probably suicidal. But it was the only chance they had. Hope, she said slowly, her mind racing ahead. Can you broadcast? Maximum range? Every frequency? Yes, but Rachel. Send everything, Rachel interrupted, her voice getting stronger. Every bit of data Dylan downloaded. Every recording we made. Every scan of those stasis pods. Every image of humans being used as test subjects. Send it to every Galactic Council representative we can reach. Every news network. Every independent colony. Every ship in range. Let the whole galaxy see what the Zentari are doing. Let them see the truth. Dylan's eyes went wide. Rachel, that will reveal our position to everyone. Every Zentari ship in the sector will know exactly where we are. They'll come for us with everything they have. I know, Rachel said, meeting her brother's eyes. She saw the fear there, but she also saw trust. He knew what she was doing. He knew it was the only way. Do it anyway, Hope. Broadcast everything. Make it impossible for the Council to ignore. Transmitting now, Hope confirmed. For 3 solid minutes, the Wanderer's hope became the loudest voice in the sector. Every communication frequency lit up. Every data channel flooded with evidence. Images of human colonists in stasis. Recordings of Zentari technicians discussing consciousness transfer. Star maps showing the ancient network. Dylan's stolen files proving the conspiracy. The truth went out to the stars at the speed of light, unstoppable and undeniable. Rachel watched the transmission counter tick up. 500 recipients. 1,000. 5,000. News networks picking up the signal and rebroadcasting it. Independent colonies passing it along. Within minutes, half the galaxy would know what the Zentari had done. Transmission complete, Hope announced. And Rachel, I'm detecting multiple ships changing course toward us. Zentari warships. They're not happy. How many? 20 warships. Maybe more behind them. They'll be here in 12 hours. Rachel pushed the conventional drives to their absolute limit, feeling the ship shudder with the strain. They accelerated toward Frontier's edge, racing against time and physics and an enemy fleet that wanted them dead. Dylan, get everyone strapped in tight, Rachel ordered. This is going to be rough. Hope, send out one more message. Emergency frequency. Tell any human ship in range what's happening. Tell them we need help. Rachel, most human ships are cargo haulers like you. Transports. Civilian vessels. They're not warships. I know, Rachel said, her hands steady on the controls. Her father's words echoed in her mind. Humans weren't special because of their weapons or their technology. They were special because they refused to quit. But they're human. And humans don't abandon each other. Not when it matters. Send the message. The message went out into the void. A desperate call for help from one cargo hauler who'd taken on more than she could handle. And somewhere out there in the darkness, other humans heard that call and turned their ships around.